Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, the country's trade deficit narrows for December. The Asian Development Bank sees the Philippine economy returning to about 6% growth in 2027. And in People Profit Planet, we speak with ESDpedia on what the SEC's updated sustainability reporting guidelines means for Philippine companies and corporations. ESGpedia Vice President Joseph Acabo joins us live. The Philippines posted a narrower trade deficit in December as export growth outpaced the rise in imports. Preliminary data from the Philippine Statistics Authority showed the trade gap eased to $3.52 billion for the month. That's down by nearly 15% from over $4 billion in December 2024. The December shortfall is also narrower compared to November's $3.95 billion deficit. Exports to the U.S. led all markets at $1.1 billion, accounting for nearly 16% of total exports. Meanwhile, China remained the country's top importer, with shipments worth nearly $3 billion, or over 28% of total imports. The Asian Development Bank says the Philippine economy could return to around 6% growth by 2027, but only if both public and private investments rebound. ADB Country Director Andrew Jeffries said the key driver is a recovery in investment after the corruption scandal weighed on government spending, consumption, and investor confidence. Because of that slowdown, the ADB cut its growth forecast for 2025 and 2026 to 5 and 5.3% respectively. Jeffries also warned that cuts to the DPWH budget this year could trigger a big slowdown in locally funded projects. He said discussions with Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon focused on keeping priority projects moving, cleaning up problem areas while pushing ahead with those unaffected. Looking longer term, Jeffries stressed the need to boost exports, diversify the economy, and improve the business environment to sustain growth, though he noted this will take time. The ADB will release its updated economic outlook, including a 2027 growth forecast, in April. Slow government spending tied to the flood control scandal may have led the Philippines to miss its growth target for a third straight year in 2025. Forecasts from major banks point to a weaker finish in the fourth quarter and full-year growth. Nomura sees Q4 GDP at 3.8%, bringing full-year growth to 4.7%. Deutsche Bank is slightly higher at 4.1% for the quarter, but also pegs 2025 growth at 4.7%. DBS, meanwhile, expects fourth quarter growth at 4.2%, with full-year GDP at 4.8%, citing climate shocks alongside slower spending. A Business World poll of 18 economists show the same median estimates. All these forecasts fall below the government's 5.5% to 6.5% growth target. They're also under the DBCC's 4.8% to 5% estimate, though slightly above the Bangko Central's 4.6% projection. Analysts from Nomura and Deutsche Bank say reduced government outlays dampened consumption and private investment, while weaker sentiment pushed households to save more. The Philippine Statistics Authority is set to release the official GDP numbers on Thursday, January 29th. Two impeachment complaints against President Marcos have now been referred to the House Committee on Justice, officially triggering the one-year bar rule. Here's that report.
Verified complaint for impeachment against President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Just after 6:30 Monday evening, January 26, the House formally referred two impeachment complaints filed against President Bongbong Marcos to the House Committee on Justice. This means the impeachment process against the president is now considered deemed initiated, officially set in motion under House rules. One of the complaints referred is the impeachment case filed by Attorney Andrea De Jesus, endorsed by Pusong Party List Representative Jet Nisay last January 19. The second complaint came from the group Bayan, endorsed by the Makabayan Bloc. The referral also effectively triggers the one-year bar rule, meaning no new impeachment complaint can be filed against the president within the next 1 year. This now affects what could have been a third complaint being pushed by the group of former Congressman Mike Defensor, Jacinto Perez, and Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. Before the consolidated impeachment complaint can move forward at the committee level, it must pass two key requirements. First, sufficient in form. This means the documents must be complete and properly verified, and that the complainants are accountable for what they submitted. Second, sufficient in substance. This means the complaint must include a clear recital of facts or the detailed basis of the alleged violation establishing the committee's jurisdiction to act on it. Once the complaint is accepted, the president will be given 10 days to respond. After that, the complainants will have 3 days to reply. Under House rules, once the committee finds sufficient grounds for impeachment, it will proceed to conduct hearings. The Committee on Justice also has the power to compel the attendance of witnesses and require the production of documents and other evidence. This is the stage where cross-examinations can happen and where testimonies and proof will be presented. After the hearings, the Committee on Justice must submit its findings and recommendations to the House within 60 session days from the referral of the verified complaint. That recommendation will then be brought to the House plenary for voting. 1/3 of the House or 106 votes will be needed to impeach President Marcos. If the House votes to impeach, the articles of impeachment will be transmitted to the Senate, which will act as the impeachment court. Meanwhile, Malacanang reiterated its position from last week, saying the president remains confident that the impeachment complaints against him will not prosper. Castro stressed that what is clear is that the President Marcos is against corruption and that this is why he pushed for investigations into alleged anomalies.
President Bongbong Marcos has laid out key 2026 priorities to strengthen the Philippine Development Plan, or PDP, and advance national digital connectivity. That's during the 7th meeting of the Economy and Development Council at Malacanang on Monday, January 26, where he also approved the National Digital Connectivity Plan, or NDCP. The NDCP is the country's first comprehensive framework to fast-track the rollout of secure, affordable, and high-speed broadband aimed at reaching underserved areas and improving internet speed and costs nationwide. While details are still forthcoming, Acting Communications Secretary Dave Gomez said the plan was shared through extensive consultations, including regional discussions held in early 2024. Gomez added, the president acknowledged the Philippines is playing catch-up with ASEAN neighbors, but with more advanced and lower-cost technology now available, he is confident the country will soon be on par in connectivity, speed, and affordability. Here are the headlines from around the globe. In South Korea, the Asian country is facing another tariff threat from U.S. President Donald Trump, who accused its legislature of, quote, not living up to its trade deal with Washington. Trump has threatened to increase levies on South Korean autos, lumber, and pharmaceuticals from 15% to 25%. South Korea's finance minister admitted earlier this month the country's planned $350 billion investment to various U.S. sectors is unlikely to kick off in the first half of 2026 due to weak currency. In the U.S., a colossal winter storm in the east and south has left at least 29 dead. Snow of at least a foot deep has caused traffic jams, canceled flights, and widespread school closures from Arkansas in the south to New England states, with the National Weather Service estimating temperatures to drop further to minus 31 degrees Celsius. Economists told the AP severe weather events collectively cut the GDP by 0.5% to 2% annually, equivalent to about $150 billion to $600 billion, figures that one expert called very substantial. And still in the U.S., Microsoft has unveiled the second generation of its in-house AI chip, Maya. Maya 200 is Microsoft's bid to lure major cloud computing firms from its biggest rival, NVIDIA. Maya 200 comes with a package of software tools aiming at one of NVIDIA's biggest competitive advantages with developers. Microsoft's newest chip comes online this week in a data center in Iowa with plans for a second location in Arizona. You're watching Money Talks. Coming up, the Maharlika Investment Corporation is aiming to close several agricultural investment deals within the first half of the year. And we talk about the updated sustainability reporting guidelines for corporates and companies. Our conversation with Joseph Acabo, Vice President of ESGpedia. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, checking in on the markets now. U.S. stocks powered through geopolitical tensions yesterday, Monday, to end the session in the green. The Dow rose by 0.6%, S&P 500 advanced by 0.5%, and the Nasdaq climbed by 0.4%. The benchmark 10-year Treasury yields ticked down to 4.212%, and gold prices breached the $5,000 mark as investors raced for safety due to U.S. President Trump's fresh tariff threats and the prospects of yet another government shutdown. Analysts see the precious metal maintaining its upward momentum. Societe Generale's conservative estimate is for the bullion to reach $6,000 per ounce by year-end, while Morgan Stanley's forecasting gold to hit a bull case target of $5,700 per ounce. And U.S. futures are pointing to a mixed bag when the markets open later tonight Manila time. The Nasdaq is up by about 0.25%, S&P 500 rises by less than 0.1%, and the Dow falls by 0.33%. As for Asian markets, they're up at the get-go on this Tuesday despite Trump's new tariff threats against South Korea. Australia's ASX 200 rises by over 1%. South Korea's Kospi climbs by 0.8%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 advances by less than 0.1%. Let's take a look at our own markets. PSEI opens this Tuesday higher, 6,283, up by about 0.1%. The stock market tumbled by nearly 1% yesterday as investors expect slower growth caused by the flood control scandal. To recall, analysts polled by Business World are forecasting the economy to have grown by just 4.2% in the fourth quarter. GDP figures are out this Thursday. The broader all-shares index slid by 0.5%, with the local counters mostly in the red. Let's take a look at the Philippine peso. It opens today weaker, 59.05 to the dollar. The peso reclaimed the 58th level yesterday as a softening dollar and yen intervention bet bolstered the local sentiment. And the 10-year government bond yields have ticked down to 6.04% from the previous close of 6.064%. The Maharlika Investment Corporation is aiming to close several agricultural investment deals within the first half of 2026. MIC President and CEO Rafael Consing Jr. said the fund is targeting agri companies with strong export potential and job creation capacity. He added that agriculture is a priority sector alongside energy, logistics, and mining, with deals possibly involving strategic mergers and acquisitions. Consing explained Maharlika is taking a sector-focused approach to help boost exports and address structural gaps in the economy. In 2024, the MIC posted 2.68 billion pesos in income and remitted 1.45 billion pesos to the national treasury. The Securities and Exchange Commission has issued updated sustainability reporting guidelines aligned with international standards, with a tiered approach beginning this year for covered entities. ESGpedia is a digital ESG data and technology platform headquartered in Singapore that supports corporates, small and medium-sized enterprises, and financial institutions across Asia in managing and reporting on sustainability. Well, with us now for more on People, Profit, Planet is the Vice President of ESGpedia, Joseph Acabo. It's good having you here, Joseph.
Morning,
welcome
Cathy.
to the program and welcome back to Manila. Let's get you the big picture first. We have entered 2026 with wars, with supply chain shocks, and a community that thinks the U.S. leadership is weakening the momentum that we've had in ESG. So given all these, do you think the ESG pressures are easing on corporates here in Asia, or do you think they're merely taking another form and shape?
What we're seeing is that it continuously growing, primarily driven by policies and regulations being updated, specifically across Southeast Asia. Philippines is not really far away from other neighborhood countries. And with that and being the supply chain of the world, the ability for us to really rely on transparency is helping actually the region to separate itself from what's happening around the world.
All right, so we got our own thing going here in the
Yes.
ASEAN, and we're not really far away, as you said.
We're not really far away, yes.
I mean, could you quantify that? Because we are the supply chain of the globe, and the SEC has opted to take a tiered approach.
Yes.
Some sort of a transitional phase when we talk about Scope 3, which is the most important part because the value chain really encompasses the biggest part of the emissions of any corporate
You're
or
right.
any company. And yet it's so hard to track.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yes. The regulations that we have now in Philippines is pretty much almost the same with Singapore, Thailand, and Hong Kong, where the mandatory regulated and audited information for reports will start this year for Tier 1 companies, which is to us here in Philippines is 50 billion and above, and then followed by second tier and third tier. What's different is that the large non-listed are also included in that tier 3, which means now if you're not a listed company, but you are 15 billion revenue and above, then you must actually start now.
Must start now. I'm wondering what kind of conversations you're having now with clients from, say, compared to 2 years ago, when it was simply nice to have, and it's now becoming a hard requirement in terms of market access and financing.
Right. The major difference from 2 years ago is that, again, yes, you are right. It's becoming more marketing related and investor relations 2 years ago, and not primarily financial impacts and climate impacts. Now, we're talking about climate impact, obviously, financial impact because of adopting PFRS S1 and S2 for this upcoming regulation, and uh, the reports will need to be audited, and that's the most important part. So, meaning sustainability risks now are treated as financial risks, and therefore companies, regardless of what tier they are, when they report this information publicly and to the regulator, they must have that information accurate.
And that's where the problem really starts, doesn't it? I mean, the collection of data, it's got to be verified to be able to tell which supplier you'd want to take on and which supplier applies to sustainability guidelines. I mean, how does that work out then if we can't even get the right data?
The technology plays a big role in that one because when you collect information and when you need to assess suppliers in the full value chain, you need to at least have a system in place where process and the suppliers will have their ability to provide the information primarily, and second is that for them to have the visibility of their own data as well, right? So imagine we have a supplier where supplies just one item in a grocery retail chain, as an example. If they have their information and their carbon footprint and their impact to the full value chain shared to them as well, then that starts how they would improve their service, for example, or improve their raw materials and products.
And
as
it gets
well.
harder for the SMEs, the MSMEs, micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, because they act as vendors to these big companies. And if big companies take them off the vendor lists because of sustainability requirements, then they lose business.
Yes, and not just that. When we're talking about existing or new free trade agreements coming into the country, then we're talking about investments from other regions to the Philippines and back and forth, right? And so that is a good indication of whether SMEs should look at reporting sustainability as a strategic move for them to really differentiate themselves in
Well, it's
competition.
got to start somewhere. I mean, the big guys, big companies can show the way. They got to embrace this transitional phase now to Scope 3. So what should they be doing now to ensure that no one gets left behind, including their suppliers down the line?
I think tighter inclusion of the full value chain should be there. We're still seeing big companies that are struggling in ensuring systems are in place and effective. Technology plays a role in that one, but also capacity building for SME. We're seeing more and more tier one companies now are initiating capacity building for SMEs, telling them that the sustainability is really a strategic approach rather than a compliance checklist. And if that continues, plus SME would understand that this is a tool that they can use so that they can be competitive, and then systems are in place, meaning technologies are in place, tools are laid out properly, then that would differentiate Philippines actually in terms of engaging the full value chain across the region.
And what about the SMEs? I mean, where do they begin? If you were to advise now the SMEs here in the Philippines, how do they engage and how do they rally their troops within the company that they gotta go this way or they won't be able to sustain themselves going forward?
Right. They can start with communicating openly with the clients or big clients that they serve, right? At the end of the day, the SME is a business that provides value for big companies, right? So they can start with that, openly communicating how they can be different, how they can contribute to the bigger value chain for their clients. And if if not a portion of SME does that, openly communicates and openly initiates programs or asks questions, just simple as that, that conversation will take big step for the full value chain, and of course for the economy as well.
And that full value chain takes us to the regional level. We've got Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. They've got their own thing going with their sustainability standards. How then do we align, get our small, medium-sized enterprises to do business as seamlessly as possible as these changes happen, as they also try to update themselves with Scope 3?
If we are to compare the involvement of government and financial sector is important. For example, Singapore would have their various grants for SMEs to encourage them to embrace sustainability initiatives, right? So simple as moving to green energy are incentivized. And we're not seeing that mostly here, but the ecosystem plays a big role.
Why is that? Why are we not seeing that here?
I think when the regulation is just signed like last month, right? So we're looking at setting up the pieces together, and we're in the right track. Of course, they have their policies set way before this, 2-3 years ago, and so that plays a big advantage to like countries.
Do you
like
think the
Singapore.
flood control scandal might have pulled us back a little bit?
I'm not sure, but I don't think so, because 2 years ago we could have set the policies in place, right?
All right.
But I think the bigger picture is that the readiness of the enterprises and SMEs,
All right.
which is also the same as other countries as well, because you have to look at the readiness of the ecosystem and the community rather than just putting policies, and that's the right way to do it.
Now or never it is for the corporates and companies. Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Cathy.
Joseph.
Thanks.
Appreciate your
Thank
insights. Joseph Acabo of ESGpedia. And before we go, in sports, Filipina tennis star Alex Ayala opened her own campaign with a dominant win in the Philippine Women's Open, beating Alina Chareva in the round of 32. Ayala, now ranked world number 49, called the moment full circle, saying it was emotional to finally play a WTA Tour event in Manila, something she's dreamed of for years. The tournament also gave other Filipino players a rare chance to compete, including Elizabeth Abarquez, who said it was unexpected just to make the main draw despite losing to Japan's bet. Filipina pairs Kay Emana and Justine Maneja and Angeline Alcala and Joanna Peña bowed out in the women's doubles, while Thailand's representative advanced in singles. Congratulations, ladies. You're making us all proud being there in tennis. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Kapatid, we are one news, all sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.